Stand by, App TV's Sports Bar is about to begin. Hello, I'm David Jackson. Welcome into Sports Bar. We've got a lot to talk about today, so let's get right to things. The full panel, full table. Welcome back, everybody. Cheers. All that fun stuff as we celebrate fall sports season here at Appalachian State being in full swing. Football starts up this week. I know that's on a lot of folks' mind.
Did he say football?
Did he say football?
He said football.
We haven't mentioned football at all on this program, so I will get the opportunity to do so. But what are y'all's thoughts? Season starting against Howard on Saturday.
5 days.
5 days.
That's about where I am right now.
Right?
No, I think it's going to be a good game for us to start with. I think it's good to start with a team that isn't necessarily, Clemson. We're going in against someone who we could play well against. We can kind of get our mojo going. We can hopefully play like the team we were playing with at the end of last season. So I'm hoping that rolls over. I mean, the coaches seem like they're, feeling like that's what's going to happen. They all seem very upbeat and optimistic. So hopefully it just rolls over to actually getting onto the field.
Yeah, it's going to be a good opportunity to shake off some rust, hopefully, that any sort of off-season rust that might have accumulated from the end of last season and the time off. But the big thing that I worry about is not to overlook this team. I'm not saying that this team is physically matched to play us right now, but at the same time, you can't overlook any opponent. I mean, because if you're looking ahead to Clemson, all it takes is one person having a great game to really throw you off. And they need momentum going into Clemson. They need to be clicking on all cylinders going into that game.
Yeah, I mean, I look for this game against Howard to be similar to the game last year against Campbell. My concern is that you have a game like we had against Campbell, and then you have 5 games following that like we did, So like ultimately the test this weekend, is just to, do what you're supposed to do and beat Howard. And then coming into that Clemson game, winning isn't necessarily the expectation, but you want to have a good showing against the Tigers.
I think the one thing that's always kind of discerning to me is the fact when a team comes in and there's no I in team. A lot of guys say, I got to do a lot this first week. Maybe there's some newcomers. There's not that many on this team. But maybe there's a new guy saying, I got to really show up. But he doesn't follow the game plan. And that's what the coaches have to be very careful about, is that someone trying to do a little bit too much. You've seen it, David. The fact that somebody tries to excel in what they're doing, and all of a sudden they're not on the same page. So I don't think that's going to be a problem, having won the last 6 and getting so many people back. But you always have that little in the back of your mind, just play the team ball. Just let the system take over, and I don't think they've got a problem. Howard's got some good speed, or at least they had in the past. They run that spread offense, so one broken play in the secondary, and all of a sudden the 7-0 game comes to 7-7 and then 14-7. So you got to be very careful. But I'd kind of look at the guys that just kind of, let's play some team ball, and that's what App State's
Well, and you look at Howard, a lot of unknowns with this team. They graduated a lot offensively.
Specifically, Greg McGee at quarterback, and then because I know they're looking at Jamie Cunningham, he's a junior. He's been the reserve for a couple of years.
1 pass for 4 career yards.
Yeah. He's played 6 games for 1 pass, but they've got a true freshman and a redshirt freshman that they're also looking at quarterback. From what I've seen, even up till today, they still don't know who's playing. So, which is kind of an interesting thing because, I mean, for us, you're looking at it going, well, they don't know who's playing, so maybe, that's good. It's going to be a very new face out there. But sometimes you get a new quarterback like that, and they do crazy things. Sometimes they come out really strong.
You've got no tape on them. Yeah. I mean, and that works to certain players' advantage. I mean, depends on who shows up, but I mean, without having film, you don't know any tendencies. You don't know what his deep ball looks like or anything like that. I mean,
especially if it's the true freshman Jason Collins. I mean, you can go to his high school tapes, I guess, if you want to look at something. But
not always so telling.
Yeah. Well, I think the idea of the secrecy of who are we prepping for? That was a big deal. With your Bills, Tyrod Taylor, E.J. Manuel. But I think that gets blown out of proportion, especially in a game like this where I feel like App is going to outmatch Howard. You're not necessarily prepping for one specific guy. I would think the team is more focused on them. themselves, making sure they are clicking on offense and defense. And if they come out and they do what they know they can do, then it really doesn't matter what necessarily they're facing on the other side of the ball.
And certainly there are a couple position battles, too, that have manifested themselves. I think you see right out of the gate from the defensive standpoint at the corner position, a great heat between Mondo Williams and Tay Hayes. And it looks like Mondo will get the start Saturday, but Tay Hayes will play significant minutes. And the other battle has been at kicker. And Zach Maddox has been at 90% accuracy or just a little bit below that the vast majority of the fall. Rubino's been right on his tail, but it looks like Maddox will win the job there, not only kickoff and place kick. That puts Bentley Critcher back in a normal position to just punt, and that was where he was most effective his freshman year.
Well, especially going off of our watching.
Exactly.
I think we're ready for a kicker who we can actually, people say, oh, good, the kicker's coming out. Let's do something.
You're kind of like automatic,
Yeah.
David, does Coach Satterfield, does he script a lot of plays early on in the game? I mean, we see a lot of running plays, a lot of passing plays, or is it pretty good a mixture of what we're going to see in the offense, or does he script quite a bit when he starts?
That's a good question. They script a certain amount, and that depends on the opponent. They like to try to see how different phases of the offense work against a particular defensive scheme, and then they'll go off of that. Usually it's no more than 20, but there is usually a good 10 base plays. We're going to run this to see what we get, and then we'll go back to some of these later on. So
on the defensive side, by that same token, do you just lay your ears back and go, or do you kind of play a little zone and kind of everybody play their zone?
It depends a little bit again on the style too, and I think it'll be interesting to see with the talent back on this particular defense, just how aggressive they'll be early. To me, this sets up like a unit that, at least from what we've seen in the preseason, will blitz early and try to use some of that skill, especially at the end position with a guy like Blair, outside linebacker like Devin Stringer, who was so effective in pass rushing last year. Let those guys get out of the gates and try to impact the flow of the game early on. But also with a more veteran defensive backfield, with Gibbs back and Middleton certainly kind of being the anchor back there. A.J. Howard, Alex Gray will both see significant playing time at the other safety spot. You've got the ability to let your guys go up front because you've got some solidarity in the defensive backfield, and that was an area that was kind of an Achilles heel at times last year. But now I think it will end up playing itself into a strength as the year goes on.
Chris, are you getting some pretty good feedback with the Appalachian? Are you getting some feedback from the players? Because a lot of times players will tell you guys a little bit more honestly than they'll tell we, the press, sometimes. Are you getting a little better feedback?
Yeah, I mean, we had a lot of reporters out at practice last week, and just talking to some of the main guys on the team, Marcus Cox and Ronald Blair and all them, and they're just looking forward to this season.
Are they realistic, though?
Are they realistic? I would say so. Everybody's been very humble. I mean, for all the watch lists that all these guys are on, nobody's really speaking about that. I mean, we're having a prod as far as question goes to get them to talk about it, which I think is good because it shows that this team is sold out to the team and not individual accolades, even though they will get those along the way. And that's the way you want to see your team.
Speaking of teams with accolades, volleyball got their season started down at Clemson this weekend, included a win over the home standing Tigers, 3-0 sweep on Sunday. The team is actually home Tuesday against Gardner-Webb, and we'll have a tournament here next weekend. So great to see Paige Brown off to a good start, Sun Belt Setter of the Week this week. And one of the key members of that team that as they go forward, they will largely go where Paige Brown takes them.
They're very sharp in the outside hitting. I mean, they are really powerful.
With a high percentage in both of them.
I mean, to tell you, I watched a little bit of the tape, and they are really, having done the NCAA championships a couple of years for ESPN, I mean, these are quality. These are quality people that you'll see with the Tennessees and the UCLAs and the Southern Cal. These are ladies that, for the most part, their two top outside hitters are seniors. So they really want to say, hey, this is our year. Paige, get it where we need it, and they'll take care of it. I think you'll see that being a real great place to attack.
Yeah, well, and they definitely, I know that there was a lot going on going into this year. They needed their seniors to really step up and show some leadership on the team because, I mean, you've got Paige Brown, I mean, Jess Keller as well. I think the team was really looking to her to say, we need you to step up and be this leader that we need. And because they have a lot of young girls. They've got several freshmen on the team who are playing. They've got a lot of youth that really need someone who's going to step up and say, here's how we're going to play. We had this amazing season to start off last year. Let's go from there. And I think that they started playing really well this past weekend, and hopefully they'll be able to continue that way. I think that the girls who are on the team, especially the older girls, have really stepped up and said, we're here to play. Here's how you do it. So hopefully that carries on.
Well, Coach Genipro said this is maybe the most focused team he's ever had.
Right.
I'd say
and the one game
he's
they
been in the game
lost
for
this
20
past
years
weekend,
or so.
Yeah, the one game they lost this past weekend against UNC Wilmington, that is a Sweet 16 level team that they ended up winning the first game from and were competitive in the 3 that they lost. But I think you still are excited about the way they started things out. A good midweek test this week before heading into tournament play again next week before they'll go up to Virginia for that. So we'll see how they continue on. And again, you're talking about teams that get out of the gate well. Field hockey got a win from Megan Dawson, a brand new coach with her first victory, 6-4 over a former conference rival in Missouri State.
And Davis,
that's more spread out than the Sun Belt.
Give us those field hockey rules one more time, will you?
Yeah, explain how that
The
works.
rule is at the end of the game, you're supposed to have more points than the other team.
There you go.
Simple enough. That's how it needs to be explained.
That's number one.
Not necessarily one of the more mainstream sports that everybody comes in here with an understanding of, but I will say that Megan Dawson has brought a renewed energy to the program. Those that have watched the team play, I think the first thing that will stand out to you is their conditioning is fantastic.
Oh, absolutely.
They are able to, with the new surface that they've got, getting back to a more traditional field hockey track, they're able to push the tempo much, much more so than they have been in the last several years. And that was apparent watching practice for 5 minutes earlier this fall. They're a team that's going to dictate a lot of what they get this year.
Ashton, let me ask a question about inviting students out to watch these. Let's not call them minor sports. They're not the football program,
Not football,
okay?
yeah.
How do we encourage the students at ASU to go, hey, these ladies have worked their tails off. They're out there representing the black and gold. How do we get a little better numbers in there? I mean, do you get any feel of what we need to do on campus?
I mean, it's hard. I know that like last year we talked a little bit on the last show about volleyball and getting people out just because they were so strong, especially at the beginning of the season. And it's hard. It's hard to get people out, especially for midweek games. It's hard to say, come out on a Tuesday night and spend 3 hours here when, most of us should be doing homework or, sleeping.
Should be.
Like
Doesn't mean it's what we're doing.
for everybody. Most of us should.
I mean, I'm not going to say you have to do homework, but you are in school. But I know that last year they did a lot of really good things with, like Student Yosef Club had some events going on where it was if you come out to such and such game, you get a T-shirt or a noisemaker or something. And I know that Greek Life did several things where it was like, whatever organization had the most people there got points for Greek Week or homecoming or whatever. So the school is trying to get kids out to this game, but I think it just comes down to the fact that people need to realize that there are more sports than football, which it's hard for me to say because I love football and, in my mind right now, that's all I really care about. Saturday is really what I'm looking for right now, and I wish it was Saturday right now. But I think people need to kind of look at it and go, we've got athletes all over this campus who deserve to be recognized for what they're doing. And I think people who, like watching volleyball or field hockey or track or, anything should say to their friends, hey, we're not doing anything right now. Like, let's go and watch half a volleyball game or just get people in the stands for a portion of the game. And then eventually that'll spread into a little bit more. But I mean, I feel like the school's doing everything they can, and I mean, the teams are clearly doing everything they can. So
I mean, and students, you don't pay to get in for the most part. So what is
why
it?
Not?
You know what I'm saying? Why not? If you've got nothing else to do.
900 at the first women's soccer game a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah,
that's great.
That was great to have that at an off-campus venue.
Yeah,
Hey, they can
Really
follow the
great for
football. What is it? $1 hot dog day at the football
Oh,
game?
yeah. That's
If
right.
you wear
I'm there.
gold.
If you wear
You gotta wear
Oh, you gotta
that
wear
way
the gold.
mustard,
Okay.
when it spills off the hot dog, will go right on your
See,
shirt.
nobody explained it like that. I was going to go to
It's
$8 hot
actually
dog.
a process. Yeah, number one, step one.
all right, so cheap food. There's another idea.
I love
You just
football
have to
too, but
spend
cheap food.
$30 on a shirt first.
Yeah, exactly.
Then you get your $1 hot dog. That's the way that works. But yeah, it's great to have football back on campus again. Certainly, we're excited about another solid student turnout. We've been averaging about 9,000 students a game for the last several years, more than half the student body. And we're looking forward to getting your student bodies back in the stadium. Exciting atmosphere. Great Hall of Fame class going.
Absolutely.
We touched on that a
Yep.
little bit last week, and we'll be excited to get that rolling. We'll move into golf here briefly before we talk about football one more time of the higher variety. But the Barclays got the FedEx Cup started. Jason Day ran away with this deal. You think back to the Vertigo deal with him and missing out on a major championship earlier this summer with that. I mean, here's a guy that put Jordan Spieth aside. I mean, Jason Day's made his own statement about being golfer of the year here because of the way he's played certainly in the last few weeks.
I mean, Spieth's lost his #1 in the world spot because of what happened at Barclays. So, I mean, The conversation is definitely shifting for sure, but I mean, Day ran away with it, like you said. I mean, he played amazing golf. I mean, you watched it, and it became not, is he going to make the putt? Is he going to, do this? Is he going to do that? It's going to be, can he do anything wrong? Yeah. Because it kind of got to that point where you're just like, oh, well, here's a 33-yard putt. He's going to get it. Like, you don't expect that watching golf. You go, oh my gosh, like, this is such a long, difficult putt. What's going on? No, you like watch it and you're on, well, he's going to get this, like, moving on to something else. So
he has another incentive as well. I think he's made $7.5 million this year.
Yeah, that might help.
He's won 4 times.
Well,
three of the last 4 appearances. I mean, that's chump change.
Yeah.
But the one thing that he told the press, particularly after he had a chance to win the British Open and did not do so, is that the vertigo really was kind of a godsend for him, because what it did, it focused him on trying to do what he needed to do. You'll see him sit behind the ball and he'll close his eyes and visualize that shot. A lot of people are saying, well, that's great to do. I do that a lot. He does something different. He sits there and he checks all of his body parts. Sounds kind of weird. Okay, my head's on straight. I'm going to hit it here. My body. He just really says, vertigo is, you're beaten because I've got you now. And then once he opens his eyes, he is as focused as anybody. Tiger Woods, Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, he's as focused as anybody I've ever seen when he sits up behind that ball. But I think the vertigo, it may not have been good at that U.S. Open, but it certainly has played dividends since he's been over it now, and certainly his play this past week. And I was kind of shocked to see Jordan 74-73 was just unspeakable to him. And then to Rory McIlroy, not even to play in the first one. Mm-hmm. Sergio Garcia said, I'm going to pass up the first 2. You realize you make $11 million just winning the FedEx Cup? If you win at Atlanta, it's another.
I think because of that, it's a flawed system. There's got to be incentive to play early in this deal. Yeah. It's not like it's not like playoff teams in Major League Baseball say, you know what, we're going to sit out the wild.
Yeah,
we're going to sit out the NL.
And all of a sudden you're going home.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I think if you incentivize it and front load it, or make it a requirement, say, hey, you're in for our $11.5 million or whatever that purse is, but you've got to play in every one of these events leading up. And it used to be that wasn't a problem.
Certainly golf is very competitive right now. If Spieth maybe didn't show out, this tournament, this go around or whatever, but certainly he's had a good year. Like we were saying, Day has had a good year. But I look at the field. Is there anyone right now that is so dominant? We haven't talked about Tiger a whole lot. Think Tiger like 2000. Is there anyone right now in the field that can be that dominant? Because I'm not sure that there is. I just think there's a whole lot of great golf being played. Maybe not someone,
there's not a villain.
But I don't.
There's not a villain.
But I don't think you always need that polarizing one person. I think sometimes, we talked about it on a few shows ago. We talked about the dominance of Serena Williams lately and how that affects tennis. Does it make you want to watch tennis knowing that Serena? It's fun to watch Serena, but do you appreciate the sport of tennis as much because she's so dominant? I don't know. For me personally, I like the fact that there's a couple good golfers right now, great golfers right now that are performing. I think it makes it a lot more watchable rather than just following one person all day long.
Well, Tiger not only had a great game, but he had great personality at that time. Yeah. It turned a little sour. He kind of shut the gallery out. He'd make a big birdie. It's all he and his caddy ignore the 30,000 and walk with him all day long. And I think that was really his downfall of kind of his in his own mind, I think. But I think you've got a guy like Jason Day has a totally different personality. I think Jordan Spieth has the same Tiger-esque type personality in the fact that he gets upset at himself. He gets excited when he makes a putt. So to answer the question, I think there's some guys that have that same Tiger in them. And now what people are finding out is that they don't go to a tournament to finish second any longer because Tiger's entered. Yeah. Now they go and say, well, why can't I win the $1 million this week? And that's the way everybody's attacking the golf. And for anybody that says golf is going down on television, if you just sit there and watch these guys play, if you're a true golf fan, watch them hit shots, watch them their imagination. I think it's as good a golf right now as it ever was when Tiger was running away hitting 20, 22 under par and everybody else was like 14 or 15. To me, that's dull. Yeah.
Well, from a dominance perspective, I really think that Day could be that person. I think that he's coming out of the woodwork, but over the last few years, he's played in 151, tournaments, whatnot, and won 2. This year, he's played in 17 and won 4. Yeah. So, if he increases if he keeps playing the way he's played this year, he's going to be that guy. in a year or two. I mean, once he gets a little bit more under his belt, he's going to be that person that everyone, am I going to be number 2 to this person?
He's also endearing himself. His little boy came out. Was that a boy or girl? I'm not sure what it was, to be honest with you. Long hair from Australia. But he's endeared himself there. Lovely wife and an outstanding youngster that's come out. But he's endeared himself with the fans from that standpoint, from a family standpoint, which was Tiger's undoing, I think.
Yeah,
he tried.
Oh, definitely.
His PR guy says, we need to bring your little kid out when you win, which was a ploy. It was,
well, and you can be dominant and still be well liked. I think. I think that it's kind of fun / whatever to have Tiger and kind of have this guy who's so good, but you don't want him to win. You want him to be dethroned and all that.
Are you talking about Muhammad Ali?
Yeah.
So if golf has got this whole thing going on, then what are they ever going to do to guarantee that these players play? I mean, it used to be that a golfer, you watch Fred Couples back when I was 12, 13 years old. Fred Couples was in every event every week. And and here it would be like the NBA saying, LeBron, play 60% of the schedule. We're good for the other 40.
Yeah.
We'll just suffer along with it, but come along for the 60 games or the 60% of your schedule. If you're gonna take the opportunity to get past the whole Tiger thing, there's some fluid aspect to watching your favorite players. It's hard to have a favorite when you don't know week to week whether that guy's going to show up.
Well, the biggest problem, and it comes down to the individuals, is they make too much money.
Yep.
I mean, you win one tournament and you get $1 million. I mean, you're set pretty good there. Then you win 4 like Day is won now, and 5 or 6 like Tiger was winning. Money becomes this. I don't have to play them all anymore. I've got enough money. I don't have to do that.
Yeah, it's easy to go land an island somewhere instead.
Have they created their own monster by doing this too much money type thing, where guys have to play not to make a living, but at least to try to reach those pinnacles of high things? So the PGA is they've kind of dug themselves in a hole. I don't have an answer on saying you've got to play or you
Taxes,
don't play. Outside of keeping your card, I don't know.
Let's go from one money monster to another and talk a little NFL here. Pivotal week just passed, week 3 in the preseason. This is basically audition week coming up for spots like 50, 51, 52, 53. Who wins the final 4 spots? How do teams try to set themselves up for this final week? Who's got the most question marks? I think that might be the bigger concern. I'm sure there's some about 2 hours from here in thinking how are the Carolina Panthers going to continue to get offensive productivity, because they've been still very, very up and down 3 weeks into the preseason.
Yeah, I really don't know for the Panthers. I mean, first of all, they've got to see what they have in Funchess, and they haven't had that opportunity yet. Yeah. I mean, we were talking before the show. I mean, the guys out there, Jericho Cottree, Jared Boykin. I mean, and not a lot of household names that they're expecting to get production.
Who was that again?
Yeah, exactly. And so I just think that for the Panthers, they need to find some solace in their run game to give Cam Newton some time to develop that chemistry. Because if Panther fans, if you expect week 1 that he's going to come out firing and Funchess is going to look just like Kelvin Benjamin, it's a little premature. I don't think the success that Kelvin Benjamin had last year is exactly replicatable from the start.
Yeah.
Well, as a Panthers fan, I'm glad we're playing Jacksonville week 1.
Yeah,
that doesn't mean Jacksonville can't beat the Panthers. Jacksonville is a much improved
Blake Bortles
franchise.
looked good the other night.
He did.
That's true. That is very true.
He did. But nonetheless, I would still rather be playing Blake Bortles than Andrew Luck, week 1.
Yeah,
but like you said, pre-show we were talking about the wide receiver position. Who in the world are they going to keep there? I mentioned Corey Brown. He's had a ton of drops. I've been reading some of what some of the staff writers from ESPN for the Panthers had been saying, and I think he's been struggling in practice as well. So we'll see kind of how that shakes out. But I'm glad, like I said, that kind of almost have a tune-up game maybe in Jacksonville, but we'll see.
Well, is it just me, or does Andrew Luck look better without that beard?
He looks
Is
better.
it just me?
No, he looks better.
I couldn't tell what he was, some Neanderthal man or something.
Well,
with
he
that
barely
beard.
talks on camera anyway, which it's weird as a Colts fan going from Peyton to Luck, because they are just such polar opposites when it comes to, not on, but off the field. They're very different people, and yeah, no, I agree. It wasn't good.
Maybe it doesn't affect his game, but
it affects the perception
keep your
around
helmet
him.
on.
What team has the most to gain or lose going into week 4?
Oh.
I think from a standpoint of momentum, I think the 4 undefeated teams, I think they really are kind of stepping up to the plate, and now they're finding, and I think when you're, like, for example, 3-0 or 4-0, some have already finished their preseason, you've already got that chemistry, you've already got that confidence built up. So I think those 4, if they go ahead and win out in the preseason, I think those might have the ones that have the most pressure. The teams at the bottom right now are still kind of struggling to find a quarterback, a running back, et cetera, et cetera. Just play your game, just do what you do. But I think the guys that have played well in the preseason, I think there's a little pressure on them to say, okay, we've reached this plateau in the preseason. Now can we take it one more step and do well? So I think those 4 teams are going to be a little bit, a little gun shy, so to speak, if they continue to win. If they lose, not going to be the end of the world because it's preseason. But nonetheless, that confidence level will drop just a little bit.
Yeah. I think there's some pressure on a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo, going into that last preseason game, right before your first real meaningful start as a Patriot. We'll see how that shakes out.
Against Pittsburgh, nonetheless.
Yeah, I was surprised to see Brady actually play as much as he did against the
weird
Panthers.
seeing D'Angelo Williams too.
It was.
He looked really good, though. I will say. He didn't look like he's lost
RG3 and Cousins. I mean, that's still.
That's what I'm most interested in, is really seeing the Redskins and what is happening, because they just came out.
Interested in seeing Washington play.
They just came out and said it was Cousins. So
that's it for us here. We'll continue this debate
off
the show. Before we close, I'd like to invite you to contact us with your comments. You can do that at watchapptv.com. Until next time, I'm David Jackson.
Bye-bye, everybody.
You get the Bills football, but that's okay.
It was.